Hi class, for this actual video, we're just gonna continue where we left off. And the last graph that we did was a relative frequency distribution, which technically follows the frequency distribution with just a single extra column. Now, the next data set also follows the frequency distribution, but it's basically a specific type of a bar graph. In this case, this is a frequency histogram, which means that we obtain all the data from, well, the frequency distribution. And this is the basic idea on this one. Now, most of the frequency histograms use the midpoints of each of the classes, and then you're locating the frequencies and creating bar graphs. You just have to make sure that you actually label for your actual axis, well, X, which will actually typically have the unit. And then don't forget the title. Now, for this one, what we have to first find is each of the actual midpoints. So the first midpoint, it's actually going to be the values of 30 plus 121, and then technically divided by 2. Please take a second and evaluate that and see if you're matching. Don't forget the parentheses. So you would say 30 plus 121 divided by 2. I'm getting 121, sorry. I'm getting 75.5, so this is 75.5. Let me show you how to actually do this on the calculator. So that's going to be our first midpoint. So in your calculator, you have to be a little bit careful. So you would open a parentheses, and then you would say 30 plus 121, close parentheses, divided by 2. And then that's your 75.5. So the next one, it's going to be 122 plus 213 divided by 2. So using the calculator, parentheses, 122 plus 213, don't forget to close parentheses, then divided by 2, I'm getting 167.5. So this is 167.5. So this is going to be our second midpoint. So when we're creating the bar graph, so let me just do it here. This is going to be your axis. Your actual axis represent minutes, which is the unit. Along the y-axis, it's going to be your frequency. So now our frequency, it's going to go to the maximum value, which is 8. So I'm just going to go by ones. So technically, let me make this a little bit larger. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. You can go by twos if you like. And then your first midpoints, as long as that they're approximately to scale, it should be fine. So it'll be 75.5. Then the next one is 167.5. Please take a second and calculate me the next three. We'll compare answers in a minute. So you're going to have 1, 2, and 3. So this is what I'm obtaining for the next one: 259.5, 351.5, and 442. And the last portion is going to be as follows. So you're going to look at the first actual class, and it has a total of 5 in the actual frequency. So your first bar graph is going to have a height of approximately 5. It's not to scale, but if we were using technology, this one will actually have a total of a height of 5. And then our next one, it's going to have a total of 8. So it would go all the way to 8. Then we're going to have 2 5s. So technically that will cover it up to here. All of these are supposed to be connected. And then the actual last one, it's going to go to 3. So that would be up to approximately there. And this is, well, this bar graph, which is a frequency histogram. And don't forget the title. So you technically have gas money here. So your main solution is this. So that's our bar graph. In this case, it's called a frequency histogram because it comes directly from the frequency distribution. And most of them use the midpoints as part of the design, which get obtained by adding the lower class limit by the upper class limit and dividing them by 2. Our last actual graph that follows the frequency distribution is a frequency polygon. And a frequency polygon basically uses all the data sets from the actual, frequency histogram, but instead of creating graphs, you're going to be creating lines. So let me copy the previous graph, everything except the final answer. And I'm just going to call this F, which is the frequency. X is equal to minutes. And then our values were 75.5, followed by 167.5, 259.5, 351.5, and 442. We're going by ones. 2, 3, 4, 5 it's needed, 6, 7, and 8. And then the frequencies were 3 for one of them. So I'm just going to label those 1, 2, and 3. Now this one uses the top of your actual, let me put it in blue, the top of your actual histograms. So the first one goes up to 5, so that's the top. Then the next one goes all the way to 8. Then there's 2 actual 5s and a 3. And then what we do on the polygon is you're basically, after you have all the dots, you connect them with straight lines. And this is used for predictions, but for our graph, I just need that portion. So just connect them. They're supposed to be straight lines. So try to make your sketches as accurate as possible. And then don't forget the title. In this case, that one represents gas money. And this is your final answer. It's a line bar graph. Well, it's a line graph with the connected tops of the frequencies. And all of these are supposed to be straight lines. That's actually it for the videos. Don't forget that in another actual problem or submission box, you're submitting this problem where you're basically looking at this data set and creating your own bar graph. It doesn't matter as long as it makes sense. You can use examples from the book or something close to the frequency histogram.